Welcome to part 2 of this Ann Arbor short-term rental analysis. I'm Kate Stormer, I'm the CEO host, and I'm going to walk you through part 2 of looking at a for sale existing short-term rental. So we didn't really look at it in part 1, but here is the Zillow listing. This is outside of the city limits proper of the Ann Arbor, Michigan market. It is currently set up and running as a short-term rental. You can see it's not super updated, but it's decorated pretty cute. The furnishings are an additional cost on that $265K price tag if you are interested in it. It's a very small property available for sale in this market. So when I think about what's income potential, I really need to be thinking about price drivers, and location and budget tier. This is from my listing optimization course, are two of the biggest drivers of price. So I need to understand that for this property. So now I want to hop into Airbnb and I look at and just kind of I'm taking in what's the finish level of these properties, what's the price point, sort of where are they at on the map. This gives me some sense of what's this market look like? What are guests going to expect for what price point? This is price tier, right? This is, what's the level of expectation and amenities and finish in this market? Because that tells me where an individual property sort of fits into the overall market. And this is a hugely important thing because most properties have a range of pricing, and I need to know where this one fits. So, in taking a deeper dive into revenue potential for a property, I like to use multiple resources. And depending on what I'm finding, I may turn to even more sources on figuring this out. But in this case, I went to Data Rebu. It's telling me $66,675 a year with a 37% occupancy rate and a $360 average daily rate. And it looks like low season, they're projecting 2,700-ish and high season close to 9,000, right? So if you remember that AirDNA was suggesting 65,300 at a 47% occupancy. So that's, a fair discrepancy. And I'll tell you, these are going to reflect the market averages, not the property earning potential, in my opinion. And I'm going to show you why. I never take what these data clearinghouses give me as for sure. First, I'm going to just go into AirDNA and take a quick look at this market. So looking at the sub-market performance, I've got an annualized revenue of 75.8. And by the way, I needed to update my settings in this because it's showing me only a portion of this market, but you'll see those numbers here in a second. There are a total of 50 available listings in this market as of when I did this analysis. And you can see a big majority of them are on Airbnb, and then a fair number are both, and then really none are in Vrbo, right? Which this is not, probably these urban markets don't tend to do as well with Vrbo. Again, we're looking right now at a sub-market, so a piece of the Ann Arbor market specific to this property, okay? I went through and downloaded, so this is what I do anytime I do an analysis, I go through and I actually download the occupancy and ADR. So this reflects from November through December 1, so basically rolling 12 months, and I average them myself. So in AirDNA, I can download this data. I can actually get 5 years worth of data, but I'm just looking at 3 here. And so again, this is for the sub-market where this property is located. And in summary, in the last 24 months, what this data is telling me in 2023 is through November 30th of 2023. So these are rolling 12 months. There's been a 45% decline in occupancy in this market, a 6% increase in ADR, and a 46% increase in the number of rentals. So that decline in occupancy is obviously pretty concerning. Now, I will note 2021, this is when we really peaked in terms of overall, short-term rentalness. This is when we saw a big surge, and there was a limited number of rentals at that time. And consistent with what we've seen across many markets, We're seeing some normalization, some stabilization, and even some oversaturation. By the way, I don't consider this an oversaturated market. It may be on the cusp. Um, but if we look at the overall Ann Arbor market, how does this line up with the submarket, which the submarket is outside of Ann Arbor proper? It's a little further away from the things that probably are bringing people into this market. Okay. And so in the Ann Arbor market, we have a virtually no decrease in occupancy in the last 24 months. We've got an increase in ADR, but we also have a pretty sharp increase in the number of rentals, which, by the way, the city of Ann Arbor actually regulated the rentals, but they've backpedaled a little bit with Ann Arbor's or Michigan's proposed regulations, which would disallow them to prohibit them. So a lot of townships I'm seeing are doing exactly that. So when I go to the submarket and 36% at 156, what does that actually equal to? So that's 56K. So this is keeping us in the same ballpark, but it's not the same ballpark, right? It's a little bit lower than both Data Rabu and AirDNA were telling us, but this is why I do this work. Is to now begin to look at who would my actual comps be in here and what are they making. So now I go through and I sort on all of the available properties that are similar to my property in this submarket. And here's the thing I want to show you, if you can see this, it is that the highest revenue of any property in this market is actually at 52.8, and I should use the term submarket. It has a high 69% occupancy and a daily rate of 222. So they're doing okay, and they're fairly established. Now I've got a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. It was available 307 days. That's making about 40, and I'm making 37 and 36 and 34 and 28. And a lot of these are not available the full amount of time. If I showed you, and I'm not going to, again, I'm trying to keep this short, all of the available properties, a huge number of them are available for less than 100 days a year. So this essentially brings me to the point where knowing I need to at least bring in 40, and almost no properties in this market are bringing in that much money. I don't like this submarket, and not for this deal, not knowing I need to bring in 40K to at least cover my expenses. So as a short-term rental, this is not a property that I'm super excited about. So all of that brings us together to the point where, why did AirDNA and Data Rabu tell us these numbers were going to be so much higher than I think they're going to be? And when you actually go in and look at the actual comps, well, none of these data software can really with certainty suggest here are your actual comps. It can't take into consideration things like the finish level, what budget tier it's going to be in, the intrinsic value that people will place upon where that sublocation is. So we have to insert our common sense and our deep understanding of a market, which sometimes it just takes time to really look at stuff in a market to understand that. And that's why there's a bit of a discrepancy. So what do I think this house actually could make in this market? I think in the coming year, 18 to 35K, depending on how well it's positioned, how well marketed it is, how well operated it is, because all of those things influence. I never give a price. I always give a price range, because who is in charge of the listing and how well managed it is always has an impact on what it can make as a short-term rental. This is a hospitality business. So marks against it, if you will, in terms of being on the lower of the budget versus the higher. Again, it's not in the thick of the city where people probably are coming to this market to be, right? So the people who are in this particular location are going to expect to pay less because it's not the ideal location. Its current finish level, it's decorated very cute. However, it is not updated precisely. So many of the offerings in this market are more updated. So I would anticipate that the guests who would book this are going to expect to pay a lower price than many of their options in this market. Keep in mind, we saw a sharp uptick in both the market and the submarket in the number of rentals coming into the market. So I think that moving forward, that is going to have a impact of decreasing ADR and decreasing occupancy across the submarket, especially, and the market overall. And in this particular township, there is some regulatory uncertainty. The township is debating what they're going to do with short-term rentals and haven't decided. Therefore, there's a high level of uncertainty that as an investor, unless this were a rock solid deal and I had a solid plan B, I might not want to get involved with. So that is a wrap on the Ann Arbor short-term rental for sale property analysis. That is, we'll call it a dud, right? And I have been in the industry for over 4 years now. I've been a paid consultant and a coach for a large majority of that. I spend most of my time actually looking at data, doing analyses, both for listing optimization as well as for investment for my own portfolio and for others. And I've taken a lot of that learning and put it into a course. It is my listing optimization course. It is a much less expensive option for learning what it takes to really exceed at your short-term rental business, how to understand your market, how to understand your potential in the market, and how to really optimize and hit the top of your income potential for your particular property. And I love case studies, so I have lots of them in this course for you. So you should check that out if it's something of interest to you. I offer many services in addition to having my free blog, which I hope is how you found me here. I do have for just a small amount of money. I've reduced this now for 2024 to $5 to get my 30-page short-term rental investing roadmap, as well as my Excel calculator that I use. I have many other programs, including my coaching program that you might be interested in, and I would love to connect with you on social media. I am on Instagram as the CEO host, on Facebook and LinkedIn as the CEO host, and you can also find me by my name, which is Kate Stormer, and I really appreciate you supporting me and my small business by showing up, liking this video, commenting, and sharing if it was of value to you.